You're listening to the We Are Libertarians podcast network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com. Welcome to Now Hear This. I am your host, Chris Spangle. Now Hear This is a conversation with leaders in Indianapolis that are working to improve the lives of Hoosiers. Our goal is to empower you to join in their work and make a difference while informing you about the unseen aspects of life in Indiana. If you miss an episode, you can now listen via podcast at nowhearthisindy.com. I'm excited to talk today to Kent Kramer, who is the CEO of Goodwill of Central and Southern Indiana. Kent, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's great to be here, Chris.
I am a frequent shopper of Goodwill. Most of my family and friends are a frequent shopper of Goodwill. I think what you're most known for are your donations and your Goodwill centers, and we're going to talk a little bit about more of the work that you do. But let's talk a little bit about Goodwill. What exactly is it, and how does it break down? You said you're the CEO of Goodwill of Central and Southern Indiana. What's the structure, and just give us an overview of the organization.
Yes. So you started with retail. That's where most folks kind of start with us, and that is a big component. It is about 70% of our revenue. And we have 76 retail stores throughout Central and Southern Indiana. And like I said, that's kind of what people know us for. But Goodwill is so much more than a store. It is a social enterprise that really, our mission is to help people increase their independence and reach their potential. And we do that through education, employment, and health. So besides retail, we also operate high schools. We have 15 Excel Centers, which are adult high schools that provide an opportunity for an individual that dropped out at some point in their life and want to go back and get that high school diploma. We have a home visitation program for low-income first-time moms called Nurse Family Partnerships. So we have in 30 counties, we have nurses that go out and visit these young families and help them kind of navigate their way towards becoming a family and finding success that way. We help people with disabilities. We have a program called New Beginnings, which helps people reentering back into society from the penal system. We also have a placement organization. We sell things online. All in, Goodwill of Central and Southern Indiana has 4,200 employees and about 108 sites across 39 counties. So our footprint is pretty big within kind of the Goodwill network, and we're an independent 501c3 nonprofit based here in Indianapolis, and we're one of 157 Goodwill organizations across North America. So we're independently led. We have a local board that helps govern our organization. So that's a little bit of a high-level view of Goodwill.
That's impressive. I didn't realize that you were in so many different organizations, and most of that funded through the donations that people give. What is the origin of the organization?
So the Goodwill started in 1902 in Boston. And there was a Methodist pastor that led a inner city Boston church, Methodist church, and he saw the people that were living and trying to survive around his church, mostly immigrants. And what he did, he would go out into the suburbs, which in Boston back in 1902 was probably like 5 miles away.
Right.
But he would go out into the suburbs and collect used goods, clothing and household goods, and bring them back to his church. And then he would have these folks kind of repair them and fix it up, and then he would give it away. And at one point, one young mother said, instead of a handout, I'd really like a hand up. What can I do to earn this? So then he started employing those folks to do the repairs and the cleaning and the processing of the goods, and then would sell them in a store. And that was 1902, and he spent several decades planting Goodwills across the country. Happened to come through Indianapolis on the south side, down by Fountain Square in 1930, and that's when Goodwill started here in Indianapolis in 1930.
That's fascinating. I didn't realize there was such a rich history and that
Yes.
and that it's been around that long. What is the process? When I'm fortunate, thanks to a previous life as a construction cleanup person, to have visited several of your facilities, and I think what I took away visiting a couple locations, but there was one warehouse where it was like, that's where the donations went. And so what happens when I drop off a load of clothes or I drop off a piece of furniture at my Southport Goodwill? What happens next to those items?
The life of a donation is
Yes,
what you're
exactly
asking
right,
about. So, if you would happen to donate that nice suit that you're wearing right now, if you would happen to donate a suit that you might have, and at any one of our 76 sites that take donations, we will examine that suit in the back, and I would say this, more than half will get processed and get sold right away in a store. So we would take it, put it in a store, usually that store you donated at. Sometimes we have to fluctuate and adjust inventory levels, but most of it goes right into that store. And as nice as that suit is, only about half of what we get in and we put out for sale actually sells. So we leave it out for sale for about 4 weeks, and then we do some heavy discounting, have a 50% off sale. And if it hasn't sold after all of those discounts, we'll pull it out of the store and send it to one of those warehouses you just spoke of. We call those our outlet stores. So part of that warehouse is an actual store that sells things by the pound. And we have 4 of those in our area. And we sell things, it's by weight. So it's at a deep discount. And individuals go in there, they collect things, they buy things, they resell it online. They reuse, repurpose items. So there's that chance that it gets a chance to sell. If it doesn't sell there, and then we have an opportunity to recycle it. So recycled clothing might have further use, whether it's into the rag industry, which used for automotive and a variety of industrial uses. Sometimes it's resale to developing countries that have commerce and thrift stores, and so that clothing, we do not throw away any clothing. It all has like a purpose, and it kind of this circular economy that just keeps going. If it happens to be household goods that you've donated and gone through that same cycle, we have each one of those warehouses you spoke of has a recycling center. So within that, if it's plastic, we take all the plastic and separate it and sell it to plastic vendors, metal, cardboard, all of that is the same way. So that's kind of the cycle. One little hitch in there, a certain percentage, very small percentage of our donations we do sell online. So on a variety of sites, but a lot of it goes through shopgoodwill.com, which is an auction site kind of like eBay. But we will take something. So if that suit is a designer suit, and we might sell it for $10 in a regular retail store, but because it's a designer suit, we might get $100 for it online, right? Because somebody might be looking for that suit, that size, and willing to pay $100 because it costs $400 at a suit store. So, we do look at those types of items, and what that means for us is if we get $100 for it versus $10, that's $90 more that we can sink back into the mission and some of our programs.
That's fascinating. There is it's a very green operation too.
Yes,
clothing is an incredible polluter in a lot of ways. So. You're listening to Now Hear This. I'm your host, Chris Spangle, and I'm talking to Kent Kramer, who is the CEO of Goodwill of Central and Southern Indiana. So tell us a little bit about the workforce that makes up not just these stores, but elsewhere. Who do you really go after when you're trying to hire at these locations? Yeah,
so I think I mentioned earlier, we have about 4,200 employees in all of our sites. A little over 3,000 of those are in retail, and of those 3,000, about 2/3 have a barrier to employment. So these are individuals, and 2/3 are individuals that really just at times have a difficult time finding a job. So these are individuals that have a disability. Unfortunately, the employment rate for people with disabilities is right around 20%. That means 80% of folks that have a disability aren't working. So we really work hard to find opportunities for those folks. Individuals that don't have a high school diploma. If you got to click that box, there's a lot of employers that just won't hire people without high school diplomas. So we hire people without high school diplomas and try and work hard to get them on a path where they can get that education, or people with a criminal background. Employment rate for people with criminal backgrounds is 2x what it is for people that don't have that. So we really employ sometimes the people that are hard to employ and give them opportunities to succeed, gain work history, and then move on possibly to what's next or move up within Goodwill.
How does that work with your New Beginnings program?
Yeah, so New Beginnings is it's a reentry program. So we also have manufacturing facilities. We've got a couple of manufacturing facilities, one in Bloomington and one on the near west side of Indianapolis, where we do kitting, manufacturing, light manufacturing, assembly work for businesses to provide a good solution for them. And within that facility, we employ people with disabilities. We employ people who have criminal backgrounds. Those individuals, reentry individuals that have the background, we established a program called New Beginnings, where we not only provide them real work experience, doing this assembly and kitting and light assembly work, but also we wrap other resources around them to help them become successful. So they work for 4 days and get their 40 hours in, and then they give us a day. And that's where we spend that day with them. And this is a 6-month program. For 6 months, we're working on resume. We're working on interview skills. We're taking them on field trips, trying to find out, where they might want to work after their 6 months is up and they graduate from the Goodwill program. So it's called New Beginnings. I absolutely love this program because of the success that we've had and the gratitude that folks show once they've gone through this program. So not sure if you're familiar with the term recidivism rate.
Yes, but please explain it to our listeners.
Yeah, so recidivism rate is individuals that are reentering society, and they do this measurement at 3 years, and who has reoffended and then gone back into the prison system. And the recidivism rate is that. And in Indianapolis, depending on the study you look at, but the one we look at, it's right around 42% actually reoffend and are serving time again after 3 years. The state of Indiana is right around 37% reoffend. So that's almost 4 in 10 in the entire state reoffend and go back. And that's quite expensive for the taxpayer and for the state. New Beginnings, again, why I love this is when you give somebody a job, you work with them, they work hard at that job, you provide other resources, you connect them with opportunities. What we're seeing is that recidivism rate is below 4%. So there is success for those folks. Unfortunately, a lot of people just will not give them an opportunity. We're able to do that. We're able to let them gain some work history, some work experience, some of these other soft skills, and then we can release them to another employer, and that they're finding success that way.
So let's take the opportunity not to help your competition too much, but let's talk about what it's like to employ 4,200 people, a good percentage of them with special needs or with a criminal background or without a high school education. What is the experience like managing those people, and what would you say to an employer who is listening about hiring these various populations?
Right. I would say that they're just looking for a chance, just like anybody else. They have a barrier that society has defined. They have a barrier that says maybe they won't be the best worker. But what we have found, if you give them the opportunity, you believe in them. Sometimes we believe in them before they believe in themselves. But if you believe in them, give them an opportunity, work with them so that they can find success, then it'll be well worth that effort.
Work is really important in terms of dignity.
There is dignity in all work, yes.
And feeling good about yourself through that process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's excellent. So let's talk about the Excel Centers, the folks who don't have high school diplomas. Is that who the Excel Centers educate?
Yes. So in the state of Indiana, there is right around 460,000 working age adults that don't have a high school diploma. And that's just an enormous number. In the nation, there's nearly 32 million. So this is not just a small problem and an issue that society deals with. It is individuals that are out there trying to make ends meet. And if you go to an employer and you do not have a high school diploma, let alone any additional education, it is just really tough to find a job that will provide a family-sustaining wage. So we saw that back in 2010, opened the first Excel Center. And they're the one that you did a little work at.
I cleaned your office. Yep.
So 2010, we had 300 seats is what we opened with. 6 months into it, there was 2,000 on the wait list. So we thought it might work, but once we got open, we're like, oh, wow, we have a tremendous demand here, and there's folks that really want to do this. So you kind of blink ahead, and it's 10 years later now, and we operate 15 of these Excel centers in central and southern Indiana. We've got nearly 5,000 students, all adults, working towards their high school diploma. We're finding tremendous success. And one of the reasons that we're finding success is the way that it was designed. And we listened to our students and we listened to what the needs of that population was. And what we found is that many had dropped out because, one, they became a parent. And they'd never gone back because it was just difficult to have a child and go to regular high school. So time got behind them, and now they're in their mid-20s, and now they have 2 children. So the Excel Center, part of the design is that there's free childcare.
That's great.
While you're in class, there's free childcare. Another obstacle is transportation. So we will provide a free bus pass for you as long as you're going to class and coming and producing. You will get a free bus pass. The other, all these are kind of like what we call our kind of secret sauce or secret ingredients. Every student gets a life coach, and that is. So I spoke of maybe it's becoming a parent at an early age or transportation, but sometimes there's other obstacles. Maybe it's homelessness or maybe you have mental health. A life coach can help get you through those things. So we find people come to us with some of those same barriers they had 10 years ago when they dropped out of high school. So we really work with them and try and find a solution so that they can find success. And I guess the final piece is 99% of our graduates walk across that stage not only with a high school diploma, but also additional certifications and or college dual credit.
Did you say 99%?
99%.
Wow.
So that is, the reason that's so important is because the jobs of today and tomorrow are going to require more than a high school diploma. So, imagine that 460,000 trying to get a job without a high school diploma, let alone additional, certifications and those types of things. So we offer certifications, things like welding, higher tech, a lot in the medical field, certified medical assistant, certified nursing assistant. So if you are a certified medical assistant and you've spent a year at the Excel Center getting your diploma and your certified medical assistant certification, all at no cost, you can walk into a $14, $15 an hour job right away. And that's, again, to me, it's wonderful because it shows that there is opportunity for folks, no matter where you're at, no matter what your age is. If you find the right program and you have the right tenacity to get after it, anything is possible.
So if somebody were interested in that program or they have a family member that they want to tip off, where should they go? Where can they find out more information? So
our site, the goodwillindy.org, is the best place. You can get to the Excel Center. You can find out about Nurse Family Partnership. You can find out about employment at a Goodwill store or outlet or within our transportation system. But goodwillindy.org is where you can find it all out.
If you're a student at the Excel Center, what does it cost?
There's no cost to the student. There's an investment in time and effort, but if you're willing to give that, we're going to give you a chance.
Oh, that's great. So that website is goodwillindy.org. You mentioned nurses. What is that program? I've seen the Excel Centers,
yes,
obviously, but I didn't know that there was a nursing program.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about this.
Happy to. So Nurse Family Partnership is a program that Goodwill brought to Indiana in 2011. And Nurse Family Partnership is a home visitation program for low-income, first-time moms. So in the state, there are close to 15,000 first-time Medicaid-eligible births. So these are primarily women in poverty that are having their first child, and many times they don't have the resources or the relationships to know exactly what to do to be a, the parenting skills to find success as a parent. And, we did a lot of research.
Or maybe the family support network.
Absolutely.
Just
they might
knowledge
be,
of family that might have issues.
Right. It's tough for anybody, let alone somebody that may not have those resources. So that's a very good point. So what this program is, it matches a registered nurse with this young expectant mother in her first trimester of pregnancy. And that nurse will spend the next 2.5 years visiting this young mother and then young family. And it's right around between 50 and 55 times in a 2.5 year period until that baby turns 2. And the outcomes are incredible because of that high touch, high interaction, coaching, tutoring, parenting that nurse does. So it may start with, here's why you should take prenatal vitamins, and it may lead to, here's why you should read even though your child's in the womb, and here's definitely why you should read and have a lot of vocabulary, and here's proper eating, and they'll coach and counsel on maybe if they're a smoker, or maybe their environment is not conducive to having a family. So they will work tirelessly with that young family. Each nurse has about 25 families they work with, and from a nursing perspective, to get to know your patients that you're working with. At 2 years, when we have that graduation, it's pretty emotional because that nurse is moving on to a new family, and that young family is on their own now. But it's just incredible. So some of the outcomes are, an example would be remediation needed at kindergarten is cut in half because of that reading, because of that understanding that young mother has, and lots of times the young father as well, but how that young family has an idea about the importance of reading and vocabulary and development of the brain early on. But even like longer term outcomes, cut in half. They measure this. This has been measured for 40 years. Individuals, these children at the age of 15, interactions with law enforcement is cut in half just because of this program, and it stops at 2.
What is is it just because of the development of the child? So down the road, they're better prepared. Development
of the child, development of the parent. It's definitely a 2-gen approach.
It's great,
and the parent really does learn and appreciate how to be a good parent. So they want what's best. They always want what's best, but sometimes they just need a little help understanding how to get there.
Oh, my mom is a registered nurse, and I've watched my brother and sister with their kids call her. We're all hypochondriacs, so we're constantly just to have somebody to text and go, "Hey, there's a rash. What is this?" Or so that alone, I think, is just, it's got to be such a big peace of mind for those parents too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you have been the CEO, I'm talking to Kent Kramer, of Goodwill of Central and Southern Indiana, goodwillindy.org, and you have been the CEO for how long?
So I've been with Goodwill for going on 18 years this year, and I'm right on next month my 5-year anniversary as the CEO.
So over your 18 years, but specifically the last 5, what are some changes that you've seen as you're involved in so many different aspects of our society? What are some trends and changes that you've noticed that really stick out to you?
Yeah, so the needs continue to grow, and the needs of the people that we serve, and we're working at identifying what those needs are and trying to meet those needs. So just this year, we're opening up our first housing development, 208, and this is workforce housing. So the facility that you help clean and get ready after construction, right outside that, we right on Michigan Street and White River Boulevard is Riverview Apartments, and this is workforce housing, and again, meeting the need of the community. So right now, if you are, let's just say you individual that just recently graduated from college and have your first job, and let's just say you're a teacher, or let's say you work at Applebee's and your partner works at Applebee's, or let's even a registered nurse or somebody that works for the city. If you are making entry-level wages, it's nearly impossible to live downtown. You just can't do it. You might be able to room with 3 other people and do it, but to find affordable, safe, quality housing downtown, it's really tough. So we worked with the city of Indianapolis and got some tax incentive financing, and work with a partner, Strategic Capital Partners, and develop this Riverview Apartments. So the rent levels are based on your income, and so you have to be working, but it's based on your income, and it makes it affordable for somebody that's making it it's a 60 to 120% of area median income. So we continue to look for ways that we can serve a population that is just looking for a hand up, and whether that's in housing or employment or health or education, we're just going to continue to look at those opportunities.
So our final question is one that I always like to ask people, and you've got a lot of people listening right now. What is the thing that you see every day that you think, I just wish everybody knew this? What is that thing that you just consistently see and you just want people to understand?
What I wish people could see is the hope and resiliency of the population that we serve. And not everybody gets to see that. Not everybody gets to witness that and actually spend time with individuals just trying to get by. And Goodwill has so many success stories out there where people have really put in a hard day's worth of work. They've really worked on their education, and they find success. And the appreciation that they have for whatever resources we can provide, whatever opportunity that we give them, I just wish that more people would be able to see that, and then also not only see that, but work towards providing those opportunities. So again, the unemployment rate for people with disabilities is too high. There's not enough organizations and businesses giving people an opportunity that are returning to society after paying their debt. Individuals without a high school diploma deserve a chance, and I just would love everybody to kind of double down on that.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Kent Kramer, who is the CEO of Goodwill of Central and Southern Indiana, and their website is goodwillindy.org. Thank you so much for joining me.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for listening to Now Hear This. I'm your host, Chris Spangle. If you missed any portion of our program, you can listen on our website, nowhearthisindy.com. If you'd like to have your organization featured on the show, please contact Gabby at 317-475-7407 or via the contact page on our website. Thanks for listening, and we will be back again next weekend with Now Hear This.
If you think you've heard everything the libertarian world has to offer, you've got another thing coming. Enemy of My Enemy is a fast-paced podcast that brings hyper-intelligent and qualified libertarians from the left, right, and center together to debate and discuss current events and the hottest topics. Don't settle for slow-paced, predictable shows filled with the same philosophy you've already heard before. Tune into Enemy of My Enemy for something fresh and educational. I look forward to seeing you there.